Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. This is the weekend edition where we interview notable people from the world of real estate investing. Today is no exception. We have a great guest. But first, I'd like you to put something on your calendar for the new year. If your real estate business could benefit from additional investment capital, you definitely want to come out to the Secrets of Successful Syndication hosted by the Real Estate Guys, March 27th, 28th in Dallas. It's the best event of its kind anywhere on the planet, and I have to tell you, I've attended a lot of events. You're definitely going to want to come out to the Secrets of Successful Syndication, March 27th, 28th in Dallas. To find out more, check out victorjm.com/events. That's victorjm.com/events. We're back. Today we have a great guest. He's none other than Mr. George Ross. George was an executive vice president in the Trump Organization for many, many years. He was Donald's right-hand man, and he's the guy that I credit for a lot of the successes in the Trump Organization. He's the author of 2 best-selling books on real estate and negotiation. He taught at the law school at NYU for over 20 years. And prior to joining the Trump Organization, he worked for Goldman and DiLorenzo in Manhattan, where he did a total of 702 transactions personally over a 10-year period. My conversation with George this weekend centers on maintaining liquidity in your business. Enjoy this conversation with George Ross.
Hello.
Good evening, George.
Good evening, Victor. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
Great. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Great to talk with you again. And it's at moments like this that I'm very mindful of the passage of time. And George, you've been in business for 60 years, married for how long, George?
Oh, too long. 60 years.
Wow.
More than 60.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great.
So, George, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York pumped $109 billion into the market today, and that came in a couple of different parts. This is what's called the repo market. Yep. Almost $88 billion in overnight repurchase agreements and $21 billion in 15-day repos. This is the bank injecting liquidity, where they basically take bank securities, whether it's a money market fund or a certificate of deposit.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, they exchange it for cash. So,
right.
So the banks have this mechanism that if they need some cash on a few hours' notice, they can go get it. They've got the Federal Reserve ready to step in and do that. But as businesses, we don't have that.
Yeah, but they pay for that.
They do. They pay an interest rate. They do. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
It's not a very high interest rate, but it's still.
No, I know that.
Yeah. But if they need access to quick cash, they can get it. Now, when you were in the Trump Organization, it doesn't matter what business you're in, whether it's a big business like that or small business, you get money one of 3 different ways. You can raise equity, you can raise some debt, you can use your own short-term cash on hand. What rules of thumb did you have in place for managing liquidity? Because liquidity is extremely important in any business. When your business runs out of cash, they become insolvent. What rules of thumb did you have in place? Because we're not a bank and we don't have the Fed at our disposal.
Well, that's a good question. But basically, of course, a private business, you don't usually have a major problem with liquidity. You usually have time to make your payments. Nothing is so critical that it has to be paid on a given date. Otherwise, all kinds of bad things happen. So liquidity is not the same for a private business, but nevertheless is there. But what you always had, and I heartily recommend, is that you get a line of credit. You get a line of credit. You establish credit with a bank and a line of credit where they will agree to loan you X number of dollars, whatever it is that you're going to need, and you only pay for it. You pay something to have the line of credit there, but you only pay for the money as you use it. And all you have to do, they'll cover it right away. So that's an immediate cash. You don't have to go through any forms. You don't have to go through any documents or anything. It's already done. And the banks love it, and the individual investors love it because it's there. It's ready cash. So it's easy to do, and it's something I highly recommend.
Now, when you talk about a line of credit, are you talking a business line of credit, unsecured, or are you talking about a secured line of credit?
No, it's not. It's not. Whatever it is, it could be whatever it is to get the bank to make the loan. So you may have to give them securities. You may have to sign personal papers. Whatever it is, whatever it was, whatever it's required, that's what you do. But it's there. And the main thing is it's there when you need it. Early on, what I did a number of years ago was I basically, when I made investments, I made mortgages, and I gave the mortgage to the bank, and I signed personally. And as time went on, I said, I don't have to do that because I built up credit with them. And I said, I want to know that I can borrow from you up to a certain amount on my signature. No security other than my signature. And it was a big push, but they did it, not reluctantly, except that I told them that this is something that had to be done. And it got to a point where I could borrow or I could buy $500,000 on my signature with no security other than me. And that was a tremendous calling card. If I needed the money, it was there. I never had to tell them what it was for. They never could, okay. And it was, I found it very helpful in all kinds of business transactions because if you have to throw skin into the game, it was there. When I first started out, they wanted to know what I was loaning. When I finally ended up, I said, look, I know what I'm doing, and you see it over a period of years, so just give me the money. And that's what they did. Highly recommended.
So you presumably built up to that over a period of time where you started out with a small amount.
Over like a period of about 5 years, yeah. And when one bank said we won't give you more than $200,000, I went and changed banks and went and told them told the next bank, look, I had a good record over here, and you want a new customer, here it is, and yes, you build it up over a period.
I love that, and of course the key is not to use that except when you absolutely need it.
Of course, absolutely. And it's just that it was there when I wanted it. All I had to do at that point was tell them to write out a check, and that way they put the money in the account and started building me. Well, yeah, it worked fine, and it was a wonderful, excellent calling card if you want to do business with somebody when you have the ability to put in a certain amount of your cash right away.
That makes a lot of sense. Did you have other strategies like maybe having other investors pledge funds or maybe letters of credit?
Whatever it is to get the credit, that's one thing. And I'm not saying that that's something that's fixed. It's whatever you've got, whatever. But the key is that you now have the ability to get the money from a bank without you having to tell them what you're doing and what papers you want. So they're not looking at a mortgage and say, yeah, it's a good mortgage, it's not an investment, it's a good investment. They are basically relying upon your credit, which they're satisfied with based on whatever information you gave them when you established this line. And it's over a period of time, but believe me, it works, and they love it. Because if you're borrowing the money, you pay it back on time. They love that. And so now you establish yourself as a good credit customer, and that's exactly what they like. So they know, oh, good. Every time he asks for money, we get paid back at a reasonable rate, at the rate of interest. They're very happy because that's what they like, a good paying customer. The key is not to get them involved in what it is you're doing. If you ask them to approve your transaction, be it whatever it is, then you run it's a different ball game because now you go into different areas of the bank. Then they go into loan to value, and they go a whole bunch of other things. So that's where you have a problem. On the other hand, if you set up the credit facility, you've already passed that. You don't have it. They're satisfied with just you or whatever it is. So you may give them securities in order to establish that line, but you're not doing it and giving them a project that you want them to do and which they will pass upon. When I did that and saw that, I said, forget it, because if the bankers were smart, they wouldn't be bankers, they'd be businessmen.
Of course. Now, did you have any rules of thumb? For example, let's say you pull money off of a line of credit and your initial thought is that it's going to be required on a short-term basis, but then you discover 3 months in, 6 months in that you actually need the money for longer. Do you then go and replace it? Do you go replace it with permanent financing?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, you can replace it. The letter, as far as the line of credit is concerned, that's perpetual.
Of course.
It's not for you didn't got it for a month or 2 months or 3 months. It's whatever it is, you need it, and it's there until you want to pay it back. And they're satisfied with it. Now, they may say you got to pay it back within a period of 5 years or something like that, or within a period of a year, but it's never short term. They don't need it short term because they've got the security that they want. They've got somebody or some properties that have been pledged if this loan goes bad, and that's what they're looking for.
That makes sense.
It does. It works fine. You got to push to get it because banks don't like to do it. They usually like to say, well, I want to see I'm properly protected and these piece of properties. I want to see your assets. I want to see the whole bunch of things. But once you get it started and you start building it up and they see that it works, they love it.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yep.
Okay. I love the conversations with George. 92 years of age, he possesses the wisdom of the ages. I love the practicality. I love the common sense, which incidentally is not so common. And I love his ability to cut through all the noise and distraction and get to the heart of the matter. At moments like this, I truly cherish those conversations. You definitely want to take George's advice to heart and look at the liquidity in your business. And as you think about that, have an awesome rest of your weekend. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.